Hello everyone, welcome back to the True Crime Friday podcast with Lauren and Matt. Before we get into this episode, we're going to do a disclaimer. This podcast is completely ad-free. We make no money off this podcast and we never will. We do not have sponsors on this podcast, but this is not something that we're comfortable with. We want to just give out information that we have gathered out of an interest that we have mutually. That is all this is. We have an interest mutually on these type of subjects, and we like to gather the information for educational purposes and nothing else. We do not condone anything that we talk about within this podcast, and we do add a comedic effect to each of the episodes, but that's more to lighten the mood, and all comedic aspects are aimed at the criminal and not the victims of the crimes. We never mean to offend anyone with this podcast or make anyone uncomfortable. So before you go into this episode, please be aware that we will be talking about some graphic content. So please make yourself wary about which episodes you may be listening to. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Hello.
Hello.
How is everyone today? Welcome back to another episode. I was going to say another week. I mean, it is technically another week, but welcome back, everyone. Hello. I've got a mic arm now. I did not have one before, and I've got one now, and my life feels a bit more put together.
Hey!
Oh, I feel like I've got an actual setup now. I'm like, ooh, I've got it all together. Like, before, it was so annoying. Whenever it was my week, I had to lower my chair, which I don't, as a short person, I don't like doing. I like being high up. But I had to lower my chair to basically get decent audio quality, just so it could be closer to the mic, and it was really annoying because the mic was on a tiny little tripod stand, whereas now it's like, I've got my chair high up, or how it's meant to be. And it's right in front of my face, and just by looking at the audio levels, it's sounding way better.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured you had some whack setup going on, but I didn't know what it was, so...
Why, does this sound better?
Oh, no, it all sounds the same coming, because I've got headphones, but it sounds fine for me, but...
I mean, I had like a good mic, I have a good mic, and that's kind of it, but now I've got a mic arm, and it feels way better, and also I've got more space on my desk, which is another big bonus.
For whatever you have on your desk.
I mean, I've only got I've got my keyboard, got my mouse, got my monitor, and then...
Well, that's good, the keyboard and mouse and monitor on the desk.
Yeah, I've got my laptop next to me, which has all my info on. But before, it was kind of like, my desk would be cluttered with, like, you got the laptop and all the basic essentials, when you'd have like then you had the microphone in the way, but then you'd have the drinks in the way, and it was chaos, but it's all nice and organised now. I feel very put together. It is great. It's been good. How has your weekend been? How has your time away from talking of murder been? And I saw you went to that very fucking weird park.
Yeah, you see, it's not only a park.
You went to the place with all the weird sculptures that just look like...
I suppose you know what that is.
I've seen like the pictures of it like go around on social media where it's just like the most messed up looking sculptures of characters. And it just looks like everything was bought off a really, really dodgy website. It looks like every single thing was ordered off a website that shows how it's meant to look pristine, and it comes and you paid like 50p for it, and then when it arrives, it's just like you got what you paid for.
Oh, you mean like Wish.com?
Yeah, it looks like everything is from Wish.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But no, the place in question, which you're referring to, I think you're referring to, well, I know you are, but it's called, well, it used to be called Storybook Glen. They still have that on the map, but it's called the Den in the Glen now. If anyone that doesn't know, and how do I explain this? There's this the Glen area, I believe, is the part that's where they got the children's play area and all that sort of stuff. Maybe, or maybe it's the other way around. But the main attraction of it is they have it's a massive like woodland wildlife-esque area that they kind of opened out, and they have sculptures of fairy tale and book characters, TV show characters. But think of like a painted like statue, and think of it in like the worst way, like crackhead version of it as possible, which is exactly what it is. And it's notorious, more so, as if anyone's seen my post, for from what I believe was a Vice article that someone did on it saying trying to relive your childhood, and they had a photo of Barney the dinosaur, and then it blew up because people took the image and then put the text underneath "Cha Cha Real Smooth" from the DJ Casper song, and then that became a meme over the internet. So it's a great laugh, and it's only like a $5 per person, I think. So it's well worth it. We hadn't had anything planned for the weekend. We were just going to chill and watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which we did do after we came back, amongst other things. But she was like, oh, can we do stuff? We were suggesting this, and I'm like, oh, we don't have a lot of time. We didn't really plan anything. And she's like, do you want to go? I said, what about Storybook Glen? And she wanted to really go. And she's like, yes, let's go. So from where I am right now, it's not too far of a drive, but obviously I had to drive from hers all the way, and then we had food in town at Fresh Mex, which is the best Mexican restaurant I've ever eaten at. But yeah, Storybook Glen, if anyone's up in the Aberdeenshire area, it's in the Mericooter area, and it is just a trip fest. There's a load of different characters there. There's quite a few people there. I know they'd listen, but the amount of times that we screamed WTF, what the fuck, at the top of our lungs with loads of young children around was not good. But yeah, there's all sorts of characters. Barney, there's Shrek, Puss and Donkey, there's Simpsons, Bart and Lisa, Teletubbies, Peppa Pig, and just an all-round trip crackhead fest. But it was fun, and I hadn't been there. I'd been there when I was younger, as all I can remember. The same with my girlfriend Rebecca, but I don't know how old I was when I went, and then I found out from my mum. It was my first birthday was the last time I went there, and I'm 24, so it was a trip down memory lane, but it was more extreme than I thought. But yeah, it's definitely worth going. So that was my weekend.
Nice.
Just nuts.
Like I did my book shopping. I finished one of my books already. I'm on the second one now. I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a book series that's been very much hyped up on Book Talk. So giving that a go. So it's alright. It's alright so far. We went out. Got some food on Saturday. It was all very nice and chill, and then we got back, and then because it was my friend's birthday on Monday, and he was like, I don't want to do anything for my birthday, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm at a wedding on the Saturday, we're going to a stag do the next weekend, I don't want to do anything for my birthday. And it got to like 6 o'clock, something like that, and he's like, so it turns out this wedding's not going to be on for as long as I thought it would be. And I've had a few drinks now. Anyone want to go out? So we ended up on a night out, which was very much unplanned, but it was a very good night nonetheless. Jacob was hanging out of his arse on the Sunday. He will deny it. He will say he was not hungover, and he will keep saying it, but he was. The man doesn't get hangovers much, so when he does, he denies it. So at Download, he had a hangover on the Thursday morning, and he was just like, I'm not hungover. He went and threw up, and he was like, actually, I might be hungover. And it's like, oh, you think? And we came back from this night out on Saturday. He was trying not to puke in the taxi, got him home. He went and was sick for a bit. I'm sat in bed eating my crisps like, this is great. And then the next morning, I'm like, I woke up going, I feel great, actually. I don't feel hungover, because I rarely do. And he was just like, I was like, right, we need to go do a food shop if we're making a roast dinner later. I made the roast dinner, and he was just like, couldn't finish it. I was like, yeah, you're hungover. And he was like, no, I've just got a headache, and I feel sick, and I feel gross. And I'm tired. I'm like, you're hungover, that's what that is. And he just still refuses. But, very nice chilled weekend. On Monday, I literally went to the gym in the morning. Oh, did I go to the gym in the morning? Yeah, I went to the gym in the morning, came back, read my book all day. Loved it. It was a nice, relaxing weekend. And this weekend, I've got a tribute festival. Boom.
Oh yeah, tribute festival. Yeah.
Best Witch. We're going to Best Witch because the lads are on the stag do, so we're taking the bride-to-be to Fest Witch. I'm not going to be here for the hen do. I'm going to be in Italy when she's doing her actual hen do. So I bought a bunch of hen do sashes, bride-to-be sashes. I bought us little devil horn clips to go in our hair. And we're going to do that little mini hen do, and then we might go out afterwards. But anyway, enough about, our weekends and how we've been having a very nice time lately, and we're all very happy. We gotta go talk about the nitty and gritty, and that is, we gotta go talk about some not so nice topics. So, it's my week. Hello, people. And this one has been on a recommended by a listener for a good few months, and I would like to say to this one listener, I do apologise about the fact that I have not covered this case earlier. I am very, very sorry. I was trying to get enough research on it done, and I finally feel like I've got enough. So, I wanted to do it justice, but we're going to Cork in Ireland for this episode. And we are going to be doing an unsolved case. It is the murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier.
I'm not gonna attempt to do an Irish accent with this one.
Well, Sophie's not Irish. She's French.
Yeah, I thought so.
French.
How are you spelling that, Sophie?
Sophie Toscan du Plantier.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
So, if for those who may not know about this case, it has been displayed on a Netflix documentary, but it kind of just tells you everything that you pretty much already know, which is, with unsolved cases, that is bound to happen. But this is, like I said, yeah, it's an unsolved case, and currently they have no suspects. They had a suspect for many, 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 many years, but he literally passed away this year, so...
if it is him...
They still have no idea there's a lot of suspicion, there's a lot of thoughts that he did do it, there's a lot of thoughts that he didn't do it. We'll go into him, of course we will. I'm not going to do this podcast episode without going into the life of, what he was like. But, yeah, so Sophie Toscan du Plantier was a 39-year-old French woman, and she was murdered outside her holiday home, in Tormore, Golleen, County Cork in Ireland on the night of the 23rd of December 1996. Sophie was born on the 28th of July 1957. She was a French television producer and lived in Paris with her husband and son from her first marriage. She had visited Ireland several times as a teenager and bought a cottage in Tormore in 1993 as a holiday retreat. She was a regular visitor with her son, and locals knew her by her maiden name, which was Bonoil. The cottage is located in the townload of Dunmanus. Her cottage is located in the townload of Dunmanus West in rural West Cork. She arrived alone in Ireland on the 20th of December 1996, with plans to return back to Paris just in time for Christmas. Sophie had a lot going on when she passed away. She was having issues with her husband, and she was also there's been a lot of speculation of what might be going on in her life at this point in time, and obviously when someone passes away, there are people who I think are unnecessary start to get in contact with the press to give them all the inside knowledge, which I don't like. But according to her ex, who is a French artist called Bruno Cabannet, she was a tough, fragile, but secretive and discreet woman, and he basically claims that he was in contact with her very much around the time that she passed away, but there's nothing to kind of back this. You can be friends with an ex. I'm friends with my ex, but you know how, especially in 1996, people aren't as cool with shit with stuff like this. Some people aren't cool with it now, but you know, people here, person is in contact with their ex and immediately goes to affairs and all this kind of shit. So she was born into a well-connected French family and married an influential Parisian film producer called Daniel du Plantier. Her ex Bruno suspected that her husband knew about their apparent affair that they might have been having. There is no evidence to back that she was having an affair. It's just her ex decided to basically tell the Irish press that this woman who has been murdered was having an affair with him. Like, that is literally, like, we should really give a shit. Like, there's bigger things going on, Bruno. We don't need to know about things that may or may not have happened in that kind of thing, because it does not do anything. The farmhouse in West Cork was her retreat, where she would go to write, in isolation from what the artist called a mundane world. Friends would give the impression of an enigmatic and sophisticated woman with a complicated private life. Her personal life became an early hunting ground for Garda in search of clues, but nothing really came out of that. Her ex, Bruno Cabannet, was amongst a list of at least 10 suspects identified in the original investigation, but who were basically eliminated. They all had alibis and the story stacked up according to sources. Now, I'm not going to lie, Bruno, you kind of put yourself in the deep end by telling him that you might have been having an affair. You're kind of putting yourself on the suspects list for no reason by doing that. So you had Bruno, and then you had Ian Bailey, who was another suspect in the case. And Ian Bailey is the main guy that I mentioned, who was the main suspect for basically over 30 years. Which is insane. Well, almost 40 years. Wait, 40 years? No, sorry, almost 30 years. Sorry, brain was not working then. He was basically a main suspect for almost 30 years. He was a local freelance journalist who arrived at the crime scene to report on a big story breaking on his own doorstep, but who the Garda suspected was her killer. For years, Ian Bailey was a lone voice, claiming he was set up, but then there was an unexpected and unprecedented intervention of a retired state prosecutor, suggesting that Bailey may have not been far off the mark. But we will go into Ian Bailey, do not worry. So, on the actual time that this murder happened, Sophie flew into Cork Airport on the 20th of December 1996, intending to work on a film project, since this was her relaxing place where she could get a lot of work done. At this period of time, Sophie and her husband were having some troubles, so her getting away to have a clear head worked best for her. She picked up a car for hire and drove to her farmhouse up a laneway in Tormore, a few miles from Schull. She intended to return to spend Christmas Day with her family in Paris, and she spent the evening of the 22nd of December at home. She spoke to Josephine Helen, a local woman who looked after her house when she wasn't there, at 10 p.m, and an hour later had phoned her husband, by which time she was already in bed. Garda have always suspected that sometime during the night she opened the door to her killer. Her body was discovered after 10 a.m. the following morning. She was dressed in her night clothes, lace-up boots, and a blue dressing gown. Her bludgeoned body was found at the bottom of a path near the gates of her home, suggesting she may have tried to run away from her attacker. An autopsy, the results of which were released in 2023, revealed she was bludgeoned to death at that spot with a heavy rock. Some of her fingers were broken and her face was smashed. lacerations covering her arms, and strips of her torn pajamas were found on barbed wire, indicated that she really fought and struggled to get away from her attacker and tried to protect herself. Hair and skin beneath her nails proved to be her own and not the killer's, and blood on the door stoop wasn't identified. Her body was not examined by the state pathologist until the following day, which crucially meant that her time of death was never actually established, which this is like one of many things that they did during the start of this investigation that they severely fucked up on, which I'm not surprised at this point. We've done a lot of cases where the authorities have insanely fucked up when it comes to getting evidence that they could have easily gotten. By then, a trial of journalists, one of whom was Ian Bailey, and investigators had helped to pollute the crime scene. So they didn't actually check anything. Her body wasn't examined by state pathologists, and during that time when it wasn't being examined, there were a load of journalists surrounding the crime scene, which meant a lot of the surrounding area was basically becoming contaminated when it came to collecting evidence. Like, you're going to find so many footprints, pieces of data around that area because they're just not taking the precautions seriously. Detectives took Miss Helen into Mrs. du Plantier's house to see whether anything was missing or disturbed. She later told French magazine Paris Match that she noticed that a poker was missing, there were 2 glasses on the draining board, and that 2 chairs were pulled in front of the radiator. Now, this didn't actually mean that she had company, according to one detective. Sophie often Sophie often let glasses mount up, like we all do. I mean, everyone got bollocked by their parent for having multiple cups and glasses in their bedroom and coming down with like a full arm, full
you can't eat in your room. You can't eat in your room. You're not supposed to eat in your room. Boo-hoo.
You can't be eating in your room. You can't be taking glasses in your room. You're just gonna let them hoard up there. Everyone's done it.
Why is that a crime? That's one thing I don't mind.
It's not a crime. It's more like they're trying to say that obviously they found 2 glasses, and they're like, oh, was there an extra person here? And the woman who takes care of the house and knows her best at this point is basically like, no, she did this quite a lot. She kind of just let glasses and dishes pile up a fair bit. Like, she'd use one glass and then probably change to another one because she's forgotten that one's there. Apparently she did this quite a fair bit, so the detectives kind of looked at that and went, oh, okay. Like, they didn't see it as, oh, someone's been in the house with her when we thought she was alone. No, they didn't look at that and think that. They just kind of went, oh, okay, fair enough. So yeah, apparently she used to let the glasses mount up, and she could have used the second chair to put her feet up by the radiator, which, yeah, you know what, fair enough. It was interesting that months after the murder, a bottle of wine was found in bushes near a laneway close to her house. Now, as a wine lover, I love my wine. I love my wine. This is a full bottle of wine, and I'm just like, why is that in the bushes? So basically it was a full bottle of wine, and it was an expensive bottle of wine. Like, if you've got an expensive bottle of wine, say someone's giving it to you, or you've just been gifted a really expensive bottle of wine, you put it to the side for a special day. Like, I've done it when it's Christmas time and my grandparents buy me a really, really nice bottle of Prosecco. I put it to the side and use that for New Year's, and I share it round. Like, stuff like that. But it was a expensive bottle of French wine. It was unopened, and it was in the bushes for quite some time. According to one detective, they looked it up, that bottle of wine would have cost £60 or £70 at that time, which means it's way fucking higher now. And again, as someone who likes her wine, £60 to £70 a bottle is fucking pricey. Like, it's not like whiskey where you kind of just open it and then you put it to the side and you have little tiny bits every now and again when you want it. It's not like that. It is literally like if it's, especially, I don't know what kind of wine it was. It doesn't say whether it was red or white or rosé. I'm going to guess because it's French, it might have been red. But if it's white, it has to be consumed within 1 to 3 days. Otherwise, it goes off. Same with rosé. It'll go off. It'll taste disgusting and it'll smell grim. If it's red, you can have it sealed up and kept for fucking ages. But also, if it's a really, really expensive bottle of wine, high chances is that it has a cork in it, which means it can't really be resealed. None of the local off-licenses stocked it, which is not a surprise, but it was for sale in airport duty-free shops. So naturally the question started getting asked, was it her wine? Did the killer bring the wine with them when they called? And why did they leave it completely unopened? Forensic analysis of the bottle provided no leads, and its significance or otherwise was never established. One source close to the investigation recalled that at that time, alcohol was often stolen from the drink cabinets of empty holiday homes. In the early days of the investigation, detectives delved into Sophie's personal life, and they learnt that Bruce Carbonet had stayed with her on a couple of occasions in West Cork. They tracked him down through the French authorities, who interviewed him in the presence of a Garda in January 1997. His alibi was watertight. At the time Sophie was murdered, he was at an art auction in the south of France. Garda spent a week in France just to verify his story, so they kind of ruled the ex out of it very, very easily. Bruce told police, Madame Toscan du Plantier for me was an intimate friend during the years 1992 and 1993, so way before the murder took place. They met in Paris when they were introduced after an art workshop and afterwards became lovers. He said, we went to Goulin in West Cork in Ireland together to the small house where I stayed and helped her to set it up herself. He said he stayed for a fortnight in Easter 1993 and returned with her on 2 or 3 occasions afterward. He said, the last time I went to this house in Ireland was during the summer of 1993. My affair with Sophie finished in Christmas 1993, a date on which she finished it without any warning. This end was very difficult for me. Aw, diddums, Bruno. They last spoke a month before she died in November 1996. She had bought one of his paintings and he wanted to include it in an exhibition the following January. He said she was a writer herself. She was secretive. The motivation for the acquisition of this house in Ireland was linked with her writing. She was someone who was tough but fragile at the same time. She sought to isolate herself from the world of the mundane because of the personality of her husband, he said in his statement. Sophie was a woman of many facades. He learned of her death on Christmas Day 1996 from a mutual friend. In its review of the evidence against Ian Bailey in 2001, the DPP's office named Carbonet as a suspect in the murder inquiry and someone who had a relationship with Sophie, but by the time he had long been crossed off the suspect list. Other suspects were being rapidly crossed off the list too. Locals reported a man seen in Tormore around 5:30 p.m. on December 22nd. Garda tracked him down to Cork and he told them he had got the bus from Shull to the city that evening. Detectives verified his story according to sources that a man known as something of a peeping Tom also came into the frame. They arrested him for theft not long after the murder and he accounted for his movements on the night she died and his alibi checked out. Another man living in the area at the time was the target of much suspicion initially. He had mental health issues and had been accused of stalking a woman previously. Like Ian Bailey, he was drinking in a pub on the night of December 22nd. He left at 1:30 a.m. when he took a lift home. The man who gave him a lift verified the construction workers' movements to the Garda. Garda also looked at a man who died sometime after Sophie was murdered. He was French too, and he knew Sophie as like a little friend for passerby. Detectives ruled him out after checking out his movements on the night of the murder as well. So everyone who's kind of being put down as a suspect is literally being ruled as, innocent, they didn't do it, their alibis check out, everything's fine. On the 11th of January 1997, a woman who lived in Shull rang the Guardian from a payphone using an alias to state she saw a man on Keelfadder Bridge at 3 a.m. on the night of the murder. A public appeal was made on television for her to come forward to give another statement. She called the station from her house to say that she would not come forward, but the call was traced and she was identified. The woman said she was driving with a man who was not her husband and was unwilling to give evidence publicly. In 2015, under oath, she named the man as a since-deceased man from Longford. In a 2003 Liberal trial, she gave evidence on behalf of the newspapers that the man she saw on the bridge was Ian Bailey. In 2004, she was threatened with legal action by Bailey to retract her statements, and in 2005, she reported being intimidated by Bailey in her shop. In 2015, she gave evidence on behalf of Bailey in his wrongful arrest civil case, and she contradicted her earlier testimony. A transcript of her testimony was referred to the DPP to examine whether she had committed perjury. There's a lot going on in this investigation. It's kind of reminding me of, the West Memphis Three, when you had that woman who put in a false claim, and it ended up not being true, and she had to retract it because she just made her look like a giant liar.
Yeah.
It's basically reminding me of that. She's like, oh, sorry, I've got to retract my statement now. I do apologise. It's like, mate, can you just... Why? In late January, Ian Bailey was their prime suspect. There were scratches on his hands and face. The statement from Marie Farrell, the local shopkeeper, put him at the scene of the crime at 3 a.m. on the night of the murder, a statement that she later retracted. He didn't have an alibi as he was writing his poetry alone in his studio during the hours that she was killed. Reports of a fire at his house at St. Stephen's Day and his supposed confession to certain people, including a 14-year-old boy, made him a suspect. So Ian Bailey, still to this day, people think he was the one who committed the murder. Obviously, we have not got 110% confirmation on this. Ian Kenneth Bailey was born on the 27th of January 1957 in Manchester, England. He worked variously as a freelance journalist, sometimes published under the name Eon Bailey with an E, and a fish farm worker, and held a market stall selling pizzas and poems. That is a very unique combo, pizzas and poems. He moved to Ireland in 1991 and lived with his partner Ghislaine from 1992 onwards. Bailey, who lived near Sophie's home in Ireland, was a suspect that was arrested twice by the Garda, yet no charges were laid as the DPP found there was insufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Bailey lost a libel case against 6 newspapers in 2003, and he also lost a wrongful arrest case against the Garda Minister for Justice and Attorney General in 2015. Bailey was known to the Garda from previous incidents of domestic violence towards his partner, which had resulted in her being in hospital. In 2001, he was convicted of assault in Skibbereen District Court. A psychiatrist report prepared for the murder trial concluded he had a personality construction on narcissism, psychorigidity, violence, impulsiveness, egocentricity, and an intolerance to frustration and a great need for recognition. Under the liberating effects of alcohol, he had the tendency to become violent. After his failed libel case, the judge stated that Mr. Bailey is a man who likes a certain amount of notoriety, and he likes to perhaps be in the limelight, and he likes a bit of self-publicity. Bailey denied knowing Sophie completely. Several witnesses contradicted this, however. Bailey was informed of the murder at 1:40 p.m. by an Examiner reporter. He denied telling Bailey the woman was French, as he did not know this information at that stage. Several witnesses reported being told by Bailey before noon that he was reporting on a murder of a French woman. So, before he claimed to get this information. Another 3 witnesses stated that they were offered crime scene photographs at about 11 a.m. While under investigation, he continued to write news articles alleging the victim had multiple male companions and steering suspicion for the murder away from West Cork and more towards France. In the days following the murder, Bailey was noted to have multiple scratches to his forearms as well as an injury to his forehead. He attributed these to cutting down a Christmas tree on the morning of the 22nd of December. Investigators could not reproduce those injuries while cutting down trees, and witnesses were with him on the evening of the 22nd before the murder could not recall him having any scratches or any injuries in the slightest. Bailey and his partner gave conflicting accounts of his whereabouts on the night of the murder. In their initial statements to the Guardian, they both said Bailey had been in bed all night long. Thomas subsequently retracted that account and said Bailey had got out of bed about an hour after they had gone to bed at 10 p.m. and returned at 9 a.m. With a new injury, he returned. So he went to bed. He apparently went to bed at 10 p.m. and he returned at 9 a.m. Now, when he showed up at 9 a.m., he had a brand new injury to his forehead that he didn't have before. Bailey changed his story to say that he had gotten up at 4 a.m., wrote an article for about 30 minutes, and returned to bed. Now, this may be me just saying things here, but just sitting down and writing is not going to give you a forehead injury. You good, dude?
I mean, if you're getting a forehead injury...
Your mic's doing that thing again. I could hear...
Is it better now?
Yeah, you're fine. I could hear shuffling. I was like, are you okay?
You from writing?
Huh? Wait, what?
Is that what you just said?
No, I could hear like loads of really intense
before that. Before that. About the case.
So basically, apparently Bailey said that he had gotten out of bed about an hour after they had gone to bed at 10 p.m. and returned back to bed at 9 a.m. But when he came back to bed at 9 a.m., he had a new injury to his forehead. And he decided then to change his story and said that he went to bed at 10 p.m, but he woke up at 4, wrote an article for about 30 minutes, and then went back to bed. Now, I spend a decent amount of time sat at my desk researching for this, really. And when I'm sat here researching, I don't think I've ever gotten a scratch or an injury to my forehead.
My hands when I'm researching tend to be quite down low because they have to touch the keyboard. Yep. And if I do have a head injury, it's because, well, if I'm laying back on the bed and actually hit my head off the backboard, then yeah, but not enough to get a scratch.
No.
There's some rustle tussle going on there. If I was researching that case with forehead injuries, and I don't need any more because I've got a scar on my forehead, so I try and not get cuts there.
So you had that, which makes it look a bit odd. And then a 14-year-old boy said that 2 months after the murder, Bailey told him that he smashed her brains in with a rock. But Bailey said that he never said this. But 2 months in, Bailey wasn't a full suspect. So how would this 14-year-old boy know to go and say, yeah, this guy told me that he smashed her head in with a rock? Like, it's just all fucking weird. Like, he's come back with this injury after leaving his bed for a bit, which he's claimed he only did for 30 minutes, which is bullshit. Because there's different witness accounts saying that he left at 10 and came back at 9. But you also got this kid who's saying that Ian Bailey had told him that he smashed her brains in with a rock. In 1998, while drinking at home with another couple after a night out, Bailey began talking to another woman about the killing and said, I did it, I went too far. Though Bailey again said that he didn't say this. Bailey wrote to the Director of Public Prosecutions while being sought by French authorities to ask for a trial in Ireland, as he wished to clear his name, but the French authorities were very much determined to trial him over there, because you had a huge dispute with this. Like, the Irish authorities wanted to handle it their way, French authorities saw this as their case because there is a French citizen that's been murdered. It was a whole back and forth, and both kind of wanted to deal with Ian Bailey in their own way. So one thing to say, like I said at the start of the podcast episode, Ian Bailey passed away after collapsing due to a suspected cardiac arrest outside his home in Bantry on the 21st of January 2024, so literally this year, at the age of 66. In January 2024, after Bailey's death, Garda conducted a search of his flat with a warrant, taking a laptop, memory sticks, notebooks, and personal items which could be used for a DNA profile. Sophie's son has said her family continues to search for truth and justice following the death of Ian Bailey. Pierre-Louis Brody-Vingard said that his family will never be able to obtain a confession from Mr. Bailey after his death, which I feel like is a no-brainer, but then again, if they look through his laptop, memory sticks, notebooks, and basically everything that they took away, there might be a confession in there for all we know. We currently have no idea. The DPP review of 2001 dismissed virtually all of the circumstantial evidence, from the credibility of witnesses to the scratches, and highlighting his willingness to give fingerprint blood samples as indications of his innocence. The DPP's report angered the Garda team that investigated Sophie's murder. On the strength of it, the Garda Commissioner dispatched 2 chief superintendents to review the murder inquiry, Austin McNally and Joe McGarty. They took a team to West Cork and reviewed the evidence. Suspects were revisited, statements analysed, and witnesses re-interviewed. Their inquiry revealed similar shortcomings as the DPP's review, but produced no fresh suspects in the case. As of 2023, the French insist that they are not looking for anyone, although they admit they don't have much in the way of evidence. They say, "We are still focused on Ian Bailey," said a source close to the French investigation. "Unfortunately, we do not have huge evidence against him. We just want to bring him before a criminal court, and the justice and the jury will decide." So, you got the Guardian that kind of just bit like, there's no evidence, there's not really much else we can do. We've tried doing the whole bringing him to trial thing. It's not really done anything, and the French authorities were like, "No, we want to do it our way. Bring him over here." In October 2023, Eamon Barnes claimed a Garda tried to put pressure on his office in 1998 to bring a charge against Bailey. He didn't act on his concerns at the time. In an email published on the Irish Independent for the first time, he wrote, "I considered that any follow-up action by the office was unlikely to achieve anything useful. Recent reports in the media regarding the French investigation of Mrs. du Plantier have caused me concern concerning it. There is now a real responsibility that Bailey may be charged in France and perhaps receive a lengthy prison sentence, presumably inter alia, on evidence and conclusions provided by what I regarded at the time as having been a thoroughly flawed and prejudiced investigation, accumulating in grossly improper attempt to achieve or even force a prosecutorial decision which accorded with that prejudice." He concluded, "I felt accordingly that as a matter of ordinary justice, I was obliged to bring the matter to appropriate action." In 2014, when it came to light that phone calls at Garda stations had been secretly recorded, there were claims that some of the recordings from Bandon Garda station had evidence of irregularities in the investigation. So the 297 recorded calls regarding the investigation, which had survived a flood, were investigated by the Fenley Commission. The Commission concluded that while there was evidence, Garda were prepared to contemplate altering or suppressing evidence that Bailey had not committed the murder, there was no evidence Garda had actually done so. It did find that Guardian properly disclosed confidential information about the investigation to journalists and to other civilians, which, to be fair, is completely normal. Wait, disclose. Yeah, it's kind of just bog standard. In 2020, were you going to say something then?
No, I'm just. There's quite a lot of high-res photos of him, but
he was like genuinely. He's in the Netflix documentary that I mentioned. He is interviewed throughout the entirety of it.
Yeah, no, because there's some weird articles here. There's one: Ian Bailey joins dating site in search of love after a relationship ends. Obituary. That's his Twitter. That was definitely him on his official Twitter account.
Probably. I mean, he only died in January.
Ian Bailey lured into attack by TikTok fans as Garda quizzed 2 men. Yeah, but I don't know, see, with these older people, if they actually have so much of a presence on social media. Well, I say it's Twitter X. But yeah, it says live even with poetry and stories. And there's another article here that Sinead O'Connor interviews Ian Bailey, denies she's putting his poetry to music. So he must have done poetry in some form of way.
Oh, yeah.
Ian Bailey is charging people €15 for TikTok shout-outs. My mum was charging €15. Wait, hang on. How much is that? Because if anyone's clueless, Ireland uses the euros. Euro to pounds. Oh, hang on. No, 15 euro. Oh, so £12.65 sterling.
Still.
But fuck me.
Still.
Just for a shout out.
Still.
He was getting like looking at this, he got like 4K, 3K, 6K views. So what do you think people were unwillingly watching and not realising that he was a suspect in a murder?
Either they didn't know or they did know and that's why they were there.
I didn't know he had TikTok, but do you think on TikTok?
Either.
Well, that account's probably still there. But
maybe it's been.
I wonder if he actually explained it on his TikTok that he was a suspect in a murder. Because it seems like he's very open about it and not trying to hide away from it.
Do you think it was one of those, when people put like comments about it in his live? Do you think that people they'd think he had a mod that would just remove the comments? Like,
I don't know.
Oh, did you actually do it? Oh, murderer and all this kind, like all the abuse that he probably got, like in the TikTok comments, and he had like a mod that just.
Oh my! I don't know.
Most likely.
I don't know if this is true. Wait, is that his actual? Well, because I found images here of tweets or what he'd replied to on Twitter, and there's one here. It was a photo of someone that a woman put, and it had about 10.8k likes. But he's replied, "Oh, so lovely. Hope you get deservedly well with a capital W laid for Christmas, hot chick. ... I'd certainly like to give ye a hug and a kissy." And then I looked down, and then there's another one of a woman who you can't see because you only see his tweet, so you don't see the top half. But this one is an image of a woman who is probably nude and whatnot, but she's doing the thing, when you pull your pants down with one hand.
Yeah.
And he's replied to it, and for some reason, want.2 is a link. But I will mention that, and the last one had 3 laughing emojis, and so does this one. But he replied to this one, replying to Mr. Lamb 10, "Just want to eat your muff until you gush like the magic fountain." 3 tongue emojis. 3 tongue emojis and 3 laughing emojis.
That is... Mate, you are a suspect in one of Ireland's biggest unsolved murder cases, and this is how you spend your free time. Are you taking the piss? He's like... Also, bear in mind, like I fucking said, when he died, he was 66 years old. That is disgusting. That is a man in his 60s that was doing that. That is... Like, we don't like to obviously speak ill of the dead, because he's not actually been convicted of anything. He was never convicted of anything. However, that's just fucking disgusting.
Here's another one. He's replied, "I'd munch lunch and fill them. I'd munch lunch and fill them, ... Ha, no. With 4 smiling emojis." That one though. Just wanted to eat your mouth until you gush like the magic fountain. It's the 3 tongues. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, my stomach has not been feeling great for the past like day or so, and it's not. This is not helping matters.
no.
Like, I feel like even worse now. This is gross.
His Twitter must have other gold mines.
Possibly. That's
Um.
but while you find more disturbing tweets from Ian Bailey.
No, there's quite a few other stuff that he's. Oh, there's the full one. Oh, that one, the Munch Luncheon film with someone who posted this up with a bra. Do you lunch my 3 holes? So he's clearly got to the stage where he was one of those older men who are commenting the creepy stuff. You know, when you see it on social media, you think that's someone. You know what I mean? So that's horrible.
That is disgusting.
My man does poetry, and then obviously must think that's poetry to women if he's commenting that, thinking, yeah, I remember the shot.
That just lets me know that his poems were fucking shite. Like, I bet when he did that pizza and poems stall, like, before he moved to Ireland, like, that would just been a load of fucking bollocks. It'd been bullshit. And... like, imagine, like, being like, oh, yeah, by the way, like, imagine going back to, like, 1991 when he was doing the poetry, like, pizza stall. Like, go travel back in time, just be like, oh, yeah, you know what, I can tell you what your future's going to be like, because I'm from the year 2024, like, oh, yeah, do I become a really successful poet? Am I a really successful journalist? Have I gotten really far in life? Well, you got suspected of murder. There's that one, Ian. It's fucking grand, that, isn't it? And in a way to make sure, and obviously you couldn't really work much, could you? Because you've been suspected of murder for the past, like, 28 years. So what we're gonna have to do, so what you had to do, you had to go, there's this apps, this thing on phones, and like, you can basically, if you've got big enough of an audience, you can make money from it. And you basically decided to go and start, like, begging people for £12 just for a shout out. And then you decided to go on this other app and just basically spew out your shite, in quotes, poetry to the public by being a pervy old man. That's basically what your journalism degree resulted in. You being a fucking weirdo. Like, imagine that, like, you go, you know, like how you see all those kind of things. You know when those celebrity news articles are on, like, the Daily Mail or some shite, and then people in the comments are just being like, oh, this person went to university to do journalism and this is what they're writing, you must be so happy with your life. It's like, you could be fucking worse. You could be Ian Bailey, who wanted to be a journalist, and he's on Twitter sending shite like that.
I mean, that one girl, at Blonde Brady, who looks like one of those anime girls from my profile picture, tweeted 3rd day in a row with no panties on, with the emoji with the money tongue, and he replied, as you do, any chance of photographic proof, eh?
No,
he's one of them. He's one of them that goes, oh,
no,
I need to see the proof if it's true.
No,
why?
You guys, you know what? This is, you know what? I got as much. You didn't get. Oh, you know what? I've just realised as well. When he died, obviously the police took away his. They've got his laptops and hard drives and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would have seen that.
Yeah. Imagine that just gone. Okay, laptop's not encrypted. That's a good sign. That's a rare one these days. We take away someone's laptop and it's not encrypted. You know, it's a good start to the day. Oh, the Twitter's still open though. We can. Oh, what was he tweeting? Let's go. Ew.
I mean, there's that, and then he's tweeted this. I'm just a piece of driftwood bobbing in the tides of life and strife. ... Waiting for the next crashing wave to break me or take me to a higher place. I mean, that's some normal kind of like poetic type stuff, and then he's replied to other stuff with that.
I bet he was one of those people. I bet he was one of those old people who had Twitter. And
well, he has that Russian hat. That, how would you call it? No, not Russian hat. You know the woolly one that's got the flip up bit at the front.
I genuinely think he was one of those people who had Twitter, who thought that the public can't see his replies.
Yeah.
I think he was one of those because he's tweeting normal poetry shit, but I bet you he thinks that... Do you remember when it was, was it Samuel Jackson who didn't realise his likes were public on Twitter? And you just went on his likes and it's a bunch of porn.
No, I didn't know that. I mean,
it was fucking hilarious. It was normal shit. It was normal stuff, which is completely fine. He just clearly didn't know that his likes were public, and eventually his PR team were like, "Mate, just want to let you know, your likes are public on Twitter." And he's like, "Shit." I bet it's the same situation. He thought that his replies weren't public. I bet you.
Well, according to this article, sorry to interject, he actually, these are tweets himself where he posted photos of women, which apparently he had been chatting to. I could just barely see it here, but there's a photo of these girls. You know the ones you see on the adverts where it looks like they're fake? Well, there's photos of two girls, and the first one he posted himself. What's the lad to do if her hair was black and her eyes sky blue? And the other one, yet another beautiful friend. So... That's another weird thing where he's posting photos of the women. You know when you see a photo of a woman, you think, okay, that's someone stole that image from someone and they're reposting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he's saying he's saying something normal about it. He's not saying what he's been saying to these replies, has he? So he definitely thought his replies weren't public. That is definitely what's happened, and that's hilarious. I love it when stuff like that happens. I love it when the older generation is on social media and they don't know how some of it works, and it's just funny.
I mean, when you mentioned the Samuel Jackson, the one I thought of was when Howie Mandel on TikTok posted the video showing his friend's prolapsed anus, and he was asking for help about it or something, and then he had to make a video back saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that I wasn't allowed," you know, and everyone's in shock opening TikTok just to see Howie Mandel sharing a video and pointing at someone's prolapsed anus. And I was like, right, you know how to do it. That's just fucking fucked up. You know, that's why there's the trend on Instagram where if you scroll through Reels where some of the comments on stuff goes, "My bad for opening Instagram today." You know what I mean? It's like you open it and you see stuff and it's like, they didn't realise you could see that.
Like that one time where we went when I went on Instagram and I just saw very much naked Tommy Lee, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Could you see a lot?
Yeah, it was literally, it's a picture of him.
I never saw it.
It took fucking ages for them to take it down, and then he just ended up getting a painting of that picture and posting that instead, and because it was art, he got away with it, which is insane. Surely
he knew that you shouldn't have put that up there.
Oh yeah.
Was it full sausage on show?
Yeah. He was sat butt naked in a pool with the full thing out.
Oh god.
And I was like, I remember just opening my phone just going, what the fuck?
Because you know when you see stuff like that and you think, no, that's not right, and then you think, wait, hang on, no, that's the official account. No, that's true. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was Tommy Lee because Tommy Lee's just.
Of course you did. You know his sausage from a mile away.
No, because I've not watched that sex tape because I'm not a fucking weirdo.
I didn't even know there was one.
It's the famous one.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet?
No, I've not watched it because Pamela Anderson didn't ask for permission. It's literal revenge porn. No.
Oh shit! I did not know that.
It's actually, it was a whole fucking thing. Going off track here, but it was a whole fucking thing in the 90s where they literally just filmed a sex tape. They filmed a sex tape, put the tape in a safe, meaning no one's ever fucking see it. They had a contractor on the house, and Tommy was being a fucking pain in the ass with paying the contractor. So the contractor stole the safe and sold the tape to multiple porn companies, and against their consent, against their fucking will, they tried going to court on it, and because Pamela Anderson was in Playboy, they were like, oh, well, you already have everything out on that anyway, so it shouldn't fucking matter. Which is vile, it's fucking disgusting, and it's completely against her fucking human rights. But, most people in the comment section under when he posted that, which is why they made that Pam and Tommy TV show on Disney Plus, which again was against her will. She did not want that show. She did not ask for permission, which is the reason she did not give permission, which is the reason why I've never watched the show and I've never watched that tape, because it's literal revenge porn. Someone did not consent to that. No.
I didn't know that it was a tape, so that's why I didn't know it was that kind of tape.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those kind of tape. But loads of people in the comment section were being like, oh, I already saw this in the 90s. It's like, no. When I posted I think I posted a whole thing on TikTok where I was like, what the fuck have I opened my phone to on Instagram today? And all the comments are just people being like, oh, I saw this years ago, have you not already seen it? It's like, because I'm not a fucking weirdo who watches content that was put online against someone's consent.
Maybe in the 90s, early internet days, folks saw it unwillingly through links and that sort of thing.
I mean, it was the 90s, so it wouldn't have been through links. It would have been just passed around, and then when Pornhub started, it literally just got uploaded to it.
Oh, but I thought if people had copies of it, they might have uploaded it to the internet.
Not really, because in the mid-90s, internet porn wasn't really a thing. That's like early internet, dude.
I don't know. I don't watch any of the stuff that's that far back.
Well, no, because that's just basic facts about the internet that wouldn't have been a thing. Yeah, I had like basic shit at that point. But
like the video itself would have been uploaded.
It wasn't on it was put on tapes and sold.
Oh, so I thought someone might have took it from tape and then.
No, they did that eventually, but when the internet caught up to them, they did that eventually. But before that, it was just distributed kind of like that.
Oh, so someone they've got it from someone from that guy.
Yeah, it would have been sold. It would have been sold as like actual videotapes because like Blockbuster, like video shops like Blockbuster had like an adult only section, which is where you had porn tapes.
Oh, I can't remember that either. There was a Blockbuster in my town, but I don't remember there being an adult only section.
Don't know if Blockbuster would have had it, but videotape stores had one. They had like an adult only section, like 18 plus, and that's where all the porn was. And I know my history, guys. So anyway, about the murder case. In 2022, a special unit of Garda Sochana opened a cold case review of all the evidence and appealed to anyone holding information to come forward. Because it's still an open case. It's still to this day a very open case. The Garda spokesperson said that perhaps in the original investigation these witnesses were constrained in some way, but with the passage of time they may feel free to give vital information that they do remember, because trauma will not let you forget shit. Well, sometimes it does, but sometimes it just genuinely doesn't. According to reports, the guards are looking at details of people of interest, including one French-speaking person seen in a Kerry pub the night after the killing. He reportedly had scratches on his face, and his description matches one given independently by another witness. According to the Irish Mirror, Garda are also following up details of two French men who may have had a connection with Madame du Plantier in West Cork. A German musician named Karl-Heinz Wolny, a heavy-drinking man with a history of violence, was also one of the early suspects. He lived a mile from Sophie's home and was playing in Crookhaven on the evening that Sophie was killed. He had no alibi, from what we know. So he had no alibi whatsoever, so he is also a suspect. So this is kind of like an appeal kind of thing at the end of this episode. If you have any information about this case, if you remember anything about this and you are very much scared about coming forward with this information, it does help a lot. Just because the main suspect has passed away does not mean that there cannot be an outcome from this. Even if it is something that basically does show that Ian Bailey was the murderer, like just having that closure for the family is the main thing with this at this point. So, Karl-Heinz Wolny died by suicide in February 1997. According to the podcast West Cork, which is a podcast solely on the case, this was only a couple months after Sophie had died, which is very suspicious in my opinion. And Garda continues to appeal to anyone who may have information on this crime to contact the Garda Investigation team at Bantry Garda Station. The number I will include in the description, but the number if you would like to give any information on this case is 027-208-60, or the Garda Confidential Line if you do wish to remain anonymous is 1-800-666-111 if you would like to give any information. It will be a very big help if you can give information on this case, because it is, like I said, currently unsolved, and finding the final outcome of this case would be a massive thing for the family, because they have still not given up hope on finding out what actually happened to Sophie on this night. But that is the case. There's not much else to go on. There's not much else. There's been no further developments. There's been nothing. They have these suspects that they have written down, but a couple of them have literal no names. Like, no one knows who they are. They just have the description, which are, like I said, I'll say it again. One French-speaking person who was seen in a Kerry pub the night after the killing. So this would have been the 23rd to 24th of December 1996. He had scratches on his face, and his description matches one given independently by another witness, which we don't have any further on. And the other suspects that police are wanting to talk to are two French men who may have a connection with Sophie in West Cork. These are the three people that they are wanting to speak to, who they have not managed to speak to in 28 years. So any information is necessary, and anything that you can give is very much appreciated. I will put the numbers in the description of this episode, and I will also be posting it on our social media if you would like to give any information, because it is, like I said, very much appreciated. But that is the case of the murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier. Bit of a different one, unsolved.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame if it is him, because he's passed away, so there's no justice going to be. Yeah, that's the only thing with unsolved cases, that if they do convict someone and the person has passed away, then the family don't get that justice of seeing them rot in prison or get executed or whatever way.
Well, it wouldn't be executed because it's in Ireland.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying with any unsolved case.
Yeah.
From wherever it could be. I know the execution's not a thing in Ireland. Well, they might bring it back. Who knows? But that was definitely an interesting one. I literally don't know any true crime cases, much or such, from Ireland at all. So Irish ones are always interesting, because it's, well, Ireland is, like the UK, but not. And it's very similar, but I just don't know much about our Celtic cousins over in Ireland. So, yeah, very interesting indeed. I'd like to see this one solved, for sure.
Oh, same, without a shadow of a doubt.
And it would be nuts if somebody knew from listening to our podcast they had information. That would be just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, thank you to the viewer who recommended this case. It was very much appreciated, and very, very interesting case to cover indeed. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to this episode. We hope you thoroughly enjoyed it, and we will see you next week with another episode. So, bye!
Bye!